Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the worst parallel designs in football cards of 1994. Now, I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I've done 91, 92, 93. Over the last 4 years of cards, there's one particular insert parallel that I've very conveniently overlooked, which is the Action Pack 24 karat gold cards. And the reason I've done it is because which is it? Is it an insert or is it a parallel? It's actually both. It's more an insert than a parallel, but it's a big portion of the set, so it doesn't really fit for an insert, and it looks exactly like a parallel. That said, it's not just a big part of the set, it's actually an aggressively truncated version, so yes, 52 cards is a lot of cards, and it's not very many cards at the same time. So it just doesn't really fit for me as counting as a parallel. And the 91 and 92 cards look amazing. I mean, even before the other sports got into parallels, Action Packed had already aced the way that parallels could be done, but they were doing it in a way that didn't really read as parallels. So it's always overlooked as a parallel, even though it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Now, by 1993, it wasn't as good, and by 1994, I don't like the 94 version. And I almost put them on the list, but I can't bring myself to bring it in as a parallel, especially when I haven't done it in the previous years. Thankfully, in 1995, I don't have to worry about that, because even though they still kind of did it, they only did 12 cards, so that definitely is an insert set. But this is one where with Action Packed, I would absolutely have it on this list if I was going to include it, but I just don't really know how to field it. So I'm just going to conveniently let it slide a little bit more. But I did want to mention it because I pulled aside 13 cards that I identified as parallels for 1994. I'm going to have 7 on the best list. I only have 6 here, so I thought it'd be good to talk about that. But at the same time, there's a top 5, and then there's another card that fits outside of that's an honorable mention that is actually even more confusing than what I just talked about. Edge. Now, in the case of Collector's Edge in 1994, parallels were brand new, and so they were exploring what you could do with it, how many packs you could sell. They had multiple releases, 3 that I know of, where if you bought this type of pack, you got the gold first day production cards, or that kind where you got the Boss Squad cards with silver, or you get the Pop Warner packs, which had a bronze parallel. And these are kind of parallels because, look, here's what the base card looks like, right? It just has the Collector's Edge logo. Only I don't know if they sold packs with these cards like this. In fact, in my experience in the last couple of years, the rare opportunities I've had to open these packs, I've seen the Edge cards as a parallel inserted into the other packs. I really don't know how these were done, but what I can tell you is that I love the gold, the silver, and the bronze. I love the way that these cards look. But they're not parallels because they were released in separate packs. This is how they were released. So they're versions. But there is one card that is an actual parallel, because in Pop Warner, they did have a 1 per pack parallel card of their 22 karat gold cards. Here they have, obviously the bronze logo on one side, and then they have the gold helmet on the other side that is not foil. It's a kind of print that is not really aesthetically pleasing. In fact, the parallel specifically of this is not a great looking parallel. However, it is on a card that's a version, and I've always really liked these. I've loved, especially opening the packs of Pop Warner and pulling these cards out. There's something really special about them. So for me, the Pop Warner 22 karat gold parallel card is one that is really fun. It does all the things it's supposed to do, and it's part of this confusing mess. So I can't put it on the worst of list because it's also attached to a version parallel thing that I like, and leave it to Collector's Edge to get you confused. There's a reason I still haven't done any Collector's Edge videos, and that's because it's confusing. So this is an honorable mention. That's just what it is. So the 5 worst designs are, well, it starts off with another one that I hate to have on this list, which is SP. And the SP parallel is perfectly fine. It doesn't look bad. It's die cutting at the top, that's it. And I would consider putting this onto the best of list, except, well, there are two problems that it has. And the first one is that the design of the card doesn't have anything to do with the parallel. I'd like for there to be some sort of relationship. There's just not. And that is a big letdown for me. So whenever I look at this card, it's kind of, okay, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with what they did for the parallel. But at the same time, you're going, really? That's the best you can do? That's a sad reality to this card. I really do wish that they did a better job with designing something interesting, because that brings me to number 2, which is its SP. Come on, you got to do something better than this. So whether it's the fact that the parallel doesn't work with the rest of the card and it actually makes it feel kind of like a cheap move, or the fact that SP didn't do something to really capitalize on their logo, on their brand identity, this is a card that for me is a disappointment. It's perfectly fine, but yeah, especially with that chromed foil surface they have on these cards. Now at number 4, I've got a card that is a pleasant surprise for me, which is the Score Gold Zone cards. And this is a card where I have always collected this as a set collector, which means you collect the main set and then you put together the parallel. And as I've been putting together, well, I think this parallel I bought as a complete set and just went with it. But the problem is when you have multiple cards, the foil runs together and they look lousy. But on an individual basis, I gotta hand it to them. These cards actually look pretty good. Now, that's in large part because when they did their design for their cards, they have this obnoxiously bold purple and green design, which actually has an aesthetic strength to it. So I look at it and I go, okay, I'll give them credit. They somehow pulled off a card that has no right being decent enough to look at. But then that leads to the parallel, where the parallel, they replaced the purple with, technically it's white so that the gold foil can come through, but that's the only place they have gold foil. The rest of it is silver foil, but you have the gold foil and then you have that green that combats it. And the two of them create kind of like a war between each other, which works as a perfect frame for an image that is a silver foil surface. The image actually reads strong, allowing this card to look pretty good. Not great, but look pretty good. But you got to look at it on an individual basis to really be able to appreciate it. You put a number of them together and they kind of run together and it doesn't work as well. So kudos to them for that. Pleasant surprise. Now at number 3, I have a great example of why Score had to work so hard to make this work, because my number 3 is Upper Deck's failure. Well, not quite a failure, but Collector's Choice is it's like an absolute afterthought at every single turn, except Crash the Game. I love Crash the Game, but the rest of it, pfft. And this is the best you're going to find, which is the gold parallel. Now, the gold parallel is where they took the entire surface of the card and they chromed it with foil, and it is really, the gold foil is just on the outside as well as for the team name, but even the image inside is not, it doesn't ring through the way that the scorecards do. With the scorecards, when I look at the image, it almost has a playoff kind of a look to it. It almost kind of glows in a way because they took the time to make sure it looked good. But over at Collector's Choice, they did not bother to do the same. And so that means that these are cards that are just, they run together. And the problem with that is that when you have everything that runs together, nothing is distinct. It does look special, like this is supposed to be a special card, and that's the one thing that works for this card, because when I look at the base level of the card, the base level card doesn't look special, whereas with the gold parallel, it does look special. But heaven forbid you move to the silver version of the cards, where this is the base level, or this is the lower level of the parallels. And this is my number 2 because I think this actually does hurt the card. It's otherwise the same card. Everything about it is the same, and it allows the image to still be strong, which is the strength that the base card has, except then it has the silver foil of the team name on it, which just looks slapped on and it looks cheap, so cheap. So interestingly for me, The worst of all of the Collector's Choice cards is the silver parallel, and the best is the gold card, which is the only reason the gold parallel is better is because it looks special. That's it. The silver looks like it is, like it wasn't thought through, plain and simple. But as much as I don't like those, to me there's one easy worst of, and that's the Score Pinnacle Artist Proof card that they did in football, where they only did one, but it was in Sportflix. And oh my word, this is not a good looking logo. It's horrible. But to their credit, Sportflix is difficult to work with because it is a surface of a card that does not have a smooth surface. It's plastic, and the images are strong. The subset cards, the rookie cards, those two don't look good. I do happen to like the way that the regular veteran cards look. That's just me. But in each case, it's a bold card. And when it's really bold, you have to have a bold parallel to stand out, especially if you're just using a little placard. And then you have a surface that's difficult to work with. And so they did something that was really strong, really clear, and really obnoxiously ugly. I just don't like how it looks. And I wish that they had, I wish they'd die cut it. Had they die cut it, these could have had a decent parallel, but putting this thing on it is just not a good move. I think it's horrible, and to me, this is the worst parallel design for football in 1994. I'm going to be doing the best of next week, so you can definitely check that out. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and yeah, thank you very much for watching.